Stephanie White.
With Caitlin, Ty Harris, and now Raven at point guard, how does that help you, especially with all the injuries you had last year and just Raven's defensive versatility?
Well, we're not speaking those into existence anymore. But I think it helps because Ty is a player who's a combo who can play on and off the ball.
Stop whatever you're doing, take a seat, and really lock in because the Indiana Fever fan base is in full-blown uproar right now. And over the last 48 hours, everything has changed. The frustration isn't being directed at the front office, and it's definitely not aimed at rookie Raven Johnson, who's simply stepping into her professional journey. Instead, all eyes and all the heat are on head coach Stephanie White. What she said on national television during the WNBA draft has ignited a firestorm among one of the most passionate and invested fan bases in the sport, with fans now demanding clear, honest, and tactical answers. But they don't just want those answers behind closed doors. They want accountability in the open, across social media, forums, and comment sections. But thousands of Fever supporters are calling out the local media for failing to ask tough questions, for not challenging what many see as a flawed coaching philosophy, and for allowing critical decisions to go unchecked. Because in their eyes, this isn't just about rotations or depth, it's about the future of the franchise. It's about whether this team capitalizes on the prime years of Caitlin Clark or risks wasting the potential of one of the most electrifying offensive players the game has ever seen. Welcome back to Court Central, the place where we don't sugarcoat anything. Here, it's all about the unfiltered truth behind the tactics, the coaching decisions, and the business side of the WNBA. And right now, the situation in Indiana has reached a boiling point. Let's break down exactly what happened. With the 10th overall pick in the draft, twice, the Indiana Fever selected Raven Johnson out of South Carolina, a championship-winning guard known for her elite defense. On paper, she's a strong addition, but here's where things get complicated. She plays the same primary position as Caitlin Clark. Naturally, reporters immediately questioned how this overlap would impact the team's rotation. That's when Stephanie White's response sent shockwaves through the fan base. She explained that Ty Harris is a combo guard who can play both on and off the ball. She said the same about Caitlin Clark, that she too can function with or without the ball in her hands. Then she described Raven Johnson as a true point guard, someone who has primarily controlled the offense throughout her career. And just when it seemed like the explanation couldn't get more puzzling, she delivered the statement that set everything off, saying that this added guard depth would allow Kelsey Mitchell to get more rest. That single comment didn't just raise questions, it triggered a full-scale debate about the team's direction, rotations, and overall philosophy moving forward.
Stephanie White.
With Caitlin, Ty Harris, and now Raven at point guard, how does that help you, especially with all the injuries you had last year and just Raven's defensive versatility?
Well, we're not speaking those into existence anymore. But I think it helps because Ty is a player who's a combo who can play on and off the ball. Caitlin is a player who can play on and off the ball. Raven is a point guard that primarily has had the ball in her hands, and so I think it gives us some versatility. Thankfully, having a couple of different guards gives us the ability to allow Kelsey to rest a little bit too. So I think we'll have a pretty good rotation when it comes to our perimeter players. Especially in the 1 to 2 spot. I think it'll give us a lot of different ways that we can play. A lot of different matchups that we can play against. We can give different looks, so I think it's going to be really important. And we can go with a defensive lineup. When you've got somebody like Raven, Ty played for us in Connecticut, so she understands what we're about on the defensive end of the floor as well. So she understands the expectations. I'm really sorry, I got full set for our next pick.
Yep.
Take a moment and really process the logic behind what was said, because this is where everything starts to unravel. The coaching staff highlighted the benefits of adding another primary ball-dominant point guard, someone who thrives with the ball in her hands, controls tempo, and organizes the offense. That in itself isn't controversial. Every team values depth and versatility, but the moment that raised serious concerns was when the discussion shifted toward rest and rotation, and the name that came up was Kelsey Mitchell, not Caitlin Clark. That single detail completely changed how fans interpreted the entire statement. Think about what that implies from a basketball standpoint. Caitlin Clark is widely recognized as the engine of the offense, the player who dictates pace, creates opportunities, and elevates everyone around her. She's not just another guard in the system, she is the system. So when the conversation suggests she can simply move off the ball to accommodate others, it doesn't come across as flexibility. It raises questions about priorities. Meanwhile, the incoming rookie is described as a true point guard, someone naturally suited to handling the ball. That contrast didn't sit well with fans or analysts who understand how elite offensive systems are built. The framing of the rotation only added more fuel to the fire. By centering the discussion around giving Mitchell rest, it created the perception that the offense might be reshaped in a way that pushes Clark away from her most dominant role. And in modern basketball, that's a risky move. When you have a generational playmaker, the entire structure is usually designed to maximize their strengths, not redistribute them. The idea that Clark might be the one adjusting rather than everyone else adapting to her is what triggered such a strong reaction. Unsurprisingly, the fan base responded immediately and loudly. Social media turned into a battlefield of opinions, breakdowns, and heated debates. Many fans expressed concern that this wasn't just a one-time comment, but a reflection of a deeper coaching philosophy. Some argued that there has been an ongoing effort to reduce Clark's on-ball role, while others questioned whether the system truly aligns with her skill set. Regardless of perspective, one thing was clear: the trust between fans and the coaching vision took a hit. What intensified the situation even further was what didn't happen in that moment. No reporter in the room followed up with the obvious question. No one challenged the idea or asked for clarification about how the team plans to balance its best player with a new addition at the same position. In high-level sports media environments, those are the moments where accountability is supposed to step in. Instead, there was silence, and fans noticed. That silence quickly became part of the controversy itself. For many supporters, the frustration shifted beyond just the coaching staff and toward the media covering the team. The expectation is that professional journalists will ask tough, uncomfortable questions, especially when the direction of the franchise is at stake. When that didn't happen, it created a sense that critical issues were being overlooked. Fans began to feel like the conversation they were having online wasn't being reflected in the press room, and that disconnect only deepened the frustration. At its core, this situation isn't just about one comment or one press conference. It's about a broader concern regarding team identity and long-term direction. When you have a player of Caitlin Clark's caliber, every decision, from roster construction to tactical philosophy, gets magnified. This moment has sparked a larger debate about how the team plans to use its most valuable asset and whether those decisions will ultimately lead to success or missed potential.
My eyes on you, media. I do. Because it's up to y'all. Is your coverage worth anything? Demand answers. Tell me what.
And the biggest question still remains: why is nobody in the credentialed Indiana sports media asking Stephanie White this question directly to her face? Because that's where the real frustration is coming from. This isn't just about a questionable draft decision or a potentially awkward roster fit. This is about a much deeper and more troubling perception that the local media, the very people who are supposed to hold leadership accountable, are giving the head coach of the Indiana Fever a complete free pass on critical franchise-shaping decisions. Decisions that could very realistically define the long-term future of one of the most important teams in the modern era of women's basketball. Fever fans are not asking for drama. They are asking for accountability. They want to see a reporter at the next press conference stand up, grab the microphone, look Stephanie White directly in the eye, and ask the one question that everyone is thinking but nobody is saying out loud. Coach, is Caitlin Clark your primary starting point guard? Will this offense fully run through her decision-making? Or are you actively building a system where she is forced to take a step back and share primary ball handling responsibilities with a rookie? Those are not unfair questions. Those are not aggressive questions. Those are essential basketball questions. And yet, somehow there has been nothing but silence. And that silence is exactly what's fueling the outrage. Now, to give a complete and honest perspective, because that's what this platform is built on, there is a legitimate counter-argument here. There are analysts and basketball purists who believe that Stephanie White might actually be making the correct call from a tactical standpoint. Their argument is rooted in one key concern: health. They point out that Caitlin Clark appeared in just 13 games last season due to lingering soft tissue injuries. That's not a small detail. That's a serious concern. And because of that, they argue argue that reducing her overall workload, especially the physical and mental burden of constantly bringing the ball up the court against full court defensive pressure, could be crucial in preserving her health across a long and demanding WNBA season. They look at history to support this idea. They bring up players like Stephen Curry, who thrived in Steve Kerr's motion-heavy system without dominating the ball every possession. They mention Ray Allen. He is one of the greatest shooters of all time, who built a Hall of Fame career by mastering off-ball movement. These examples are used to show that elite players can still dominate games, even championships, without always being the primary ball handler. And the argument goes even deeper. Supporters of this approach believe the Fever's ultimate goal should not be early season dominance, but postseason success. They argue that the team needs Caitlin Clark at full strength in October, not worn down, not exhausted, not dealing with recurring injuries by May or June. And in their view, carefully managing her usage rate is the smartest way to ensure that long-term outcome. From a purely theoretical and medical standpoint, that argument has real merit. But here's where the entire logic starts to break down. You do not build a championship caliber offense based on fear. You don't limit your best player because you're worried about what might happen. You don't cap the ceiling of a generational talent just to play it safe. Yes, you manage minutes. Yes, you invest in recovery, conditioning, and sports science. But you do not fundamentally reduce the role of your most important player. That's not how great teams operate. You don't tell LeBron James to stand in the corner because driving to the basket might be risky. You don't ask Luka Doncic to hand over control of the offense to a rookie just to conserve energy. And you absolutely do not take the ball out of the hands of a once-in-a-generation playmaker like Caitlin Clark. When you have a player with that level of court vision, creativity, and offensive control, you give them the keys to the franchise and you do not take them back. That's the standard. Now, where does someone like Raven Johnson fit into this? Her role should be crystal clear. She should be the defensive tone setter for the second unit, the high-energy presence who comes in and completely disrupts opposing guards, the player who takes on the toughest perimeter assignments so that Caitlin Clark doesn't have to carry that burden on both ends of the floor. That's how you maximize both players. What she should not become is the reason Caitlin Clark is pushed off the ball during critical stretches of the game. She should not be the factor that reduces Clark's influence when the game is on the line, because that's where the line gets crossed. With the season tipping off on May 9th, the time for experimentation is over. The time for vague answers is over. By the time the lights are at their brightest, Stephanie White needs to provide a clear, definitive answer to the most important question surrounding this team. Because if the answer to who is the point guard of this team is anyone other than Caitlin Clark, then the Indiana Fever are risking one of the biggest and most unforgivable tactical mistakes in franchise history. This is Court Central. If this kind of deep, unfiltered breakdown hit different for you, then you already know what to do. Hit that subscribe button and become part of the most informed and passionate basketball community on YouTube. Now I want to hear from you. Should Caitlin Clark be the full-time on-ball engine of this offense? Or is there real value in shifting her into an off-ball role for the sake of her health and long-term success? And one more question, should the Indiana media start holding Stephanie White accountable and demanding real answers? Drop your hottest take in the comments. Let's get a real debate going. Make sure you turn on notifications because we are covering every angle, every controversy, and every single moment of this explosive Fever season. You do not want to miss what's coming next. Peace out.